Welcome to DIY 360, and we have your friend and mine, Justin Deleon, and his band, Swallows. I've done gigs with these guys. I've seen them play live, and I'm really excited to have them in here to play for you because also I think it's cool to have instructors at IPR like me and like Justin come in to do a DIY 360 because I think it has a humanizing effect so that you can see that we're people just like you. Actually, we're not just like you, but we are people. All right? Thank you. No, it's interesting to see because you see these guys walking down the halls and stuff, and you think of us as teachers, but hey, when we're not here, this is the kind of stuff that we're doing. So I'm glad to have these guys in, and I'm a fan of the band because we're both into kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, rootsy kind of music. So starting with Justin, how old were you when is drums your primary and only instrument, or do you play a bunch of other instruments too?
Oh, that's a great question.
I know.
And I'll simply answer that with drums is the only thing I play. Basically, here's the way it works. Go into a little bit of hand percussion, but if it can be hit with a hand or a stick, I can play it. That's the extent of my musicianship. Nice.
So you're a hitter. You hit.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started playing drums?
Good question. 5th grade, they hand around this little, I don't know what you guys do in your school, but in my school, they hand around this little piece of paper that says, do you want to play an instrument? Meaning like concert band. And I was like, I don't know how I got this in my head, but it's like, I want to play drums, like the drum set. So I put that down. And then I think I put saxophone as my backup instrument. I don't know. I just thought it was cool.
Was there a drummer you were into, or had you seen a live band or something?
I don't know. I'm in 5th grade. I have no idea where I got these ideas. Maybe, maybe my parents' Laserdisc player, I saw like Blondie on it or something and saw the drummer and got, crazy and wanted to be like that person. But I don't know where it came from. But anyway,
your parents
I just
had a Laserdisc player?
Yeah.
That's the difference between me and you. My parents had a phonograph, and yours had a Laserdisc player. So you started when you were in 5th grade, and you were playing in a school band.
Well, the thing is I wanted to play drums, but I didn't realize concert band was just basically snare drum and triangle and bass drum, like in concert band style. And I was like, I want to play the drum set. And like a few months out of the year was dedicated to like jazz band or pep band, and then I got to play this thing. I just thought it looked cool, and I wanted to play it.
They do look cool.
And it ended up being that I stuck with it through high school, but then I did a bunch of sports, and that kind of countered a lot of that stuff. So somewhere back in college, someone got me back into it. And then once I got into like a band in college, I was like, this is it.
Where did you go to college?
University of Minnesota.
Oh, okay. And what kind of band was that? Was that like a punk rock band?
Man, I started out in all kinds of crazy stuff, but my kind of official first band I started off with, I'll call it an alternative rock band. Kind of in the vein of like Smashing Pumpkins, Radiohead, stuff like that at that time. That was our influence. So that's kind of where I spent a lot of my time learning how to play in a band.
When did you start getting into like nerding out on Pro Tools and stuff like that? Was that in college as well?
Man, this is my life here.
That's why we're here.
So I started working in a studio because I wanted to supplement my musical career, because I wanted to be like, all right, I want to do something professionally. What can I do to bring income in and still be close to the music industry? So actually, I just cold called a studio. As a band, we went into the studio called Angel Beach. I don't know if you're familiar.
I remember that place, yeah.
Yeah, so we went in there.
It's a big deal for a while. That place was a big deal.
Yeah, we went in there and as a band, and I was like, I just kind of naively went up to Blake, who was the boss at that time, and said, hey, do you hire interns? He's like, yeah, I'm hiring right now. Clean up my desk. That's what he told me.
You're kidding.
And then I just kept showing up, because I was just dumb. And I'm like, I want to do this studio stuff. And then eventually they started hauling me back and showing me stuff. And then eventually I became like the full-time engineer in there.
The key part being, though, let's not gloss over that. You showed up.
Yeah.
I think we stress that a lot with the students here. Showing up. How important do you think showing up is? Because I think it's really important. Once you started showing up,
yeah, I wanted to do it, obviously. So I was very persistent about it. I kept showing up on time, and eventually they showed me a bunch of stuff. And that's how I learned the studio industry. It was on the job gradually. And then I started out on ADATs, which I'm sure nobody knows what that is except about 5 people in this room.
Nightmare.
And eventually they brought Pro Tools in, and it was like coming out of the dark ages, and I was like, yay, Pro Tools. And then I learned all that on the job, and I actually thought I knew it pretty well. Eventually I came over here and started teaching, and I found out it's like, I don't know anything about Pro Tools, right? All right, I got to learn again. So then I studied it here as a educational, in an educational environment, and then here I am now, basically.
Cool. All right, why don't you introduce us to this fella?
This is Jeff Crandall. He plays the guitar.
Hello,
he
everyone.
sings. I'll let him talk for himself.
And Jeff, where are you from? The city's here? Where'd you grow
I'm
up?
from California.
Really? What the hell possessed you to move here from California?
I came to here for grad school,
Grad school.
U of M.
It's always either grad school, love, or rehab.
I think love's in there, too.
Yeah. Not
Little love.
rehab, but that's later.
Oh, okay. So how long have you been here in Minnesota?
Since 95, so it's been a long time.
And is guitar your primary instrument? Is that what you picked up first?
Yeah.
How-
I started singing first, and then
Oh.
I realized quickly that I was going to be, kind of kicked out of my band, I assumed, if I didn't learn how to play an instrument. So,
That's why I started songwriting.
the-
It's like, well, I can't sing very good. I better write good.
exactly, yeah. So,
And so did you start playing in bands when you moved here, or were you already in bands when you were out in California?
I started in college in UC San Diego, and I was in a couple of bands there, mostly cover bands, but then we started doing original stuff.
Were you
Well, I did
usually
that
the
for sure.
songwriting driving force in the bands you were in?
Yeah, there was a couple of us though that really liked to write, so we started writing, and it was.
What were your first inspirations as a songwriter that made you not just guitar and vocals, but as a writer? Who influences you, back then and today? Who are some of your touchstones?
I would say like one that seems to have stayed with me for most of the time is like early REM. So that was just like the thing that was happening at that time.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty old here, so.
Don't even start.
So yeah, I mean that was one of the ones that was a big influence. And then any 80s alternative rock, that was the start. And then I got into all sorts of crazy things, a lot of 4AD bands and
Oh, okay.
This Mortal Coil, stuff like that, Cocteau Twins.
Isn't it funny to hear that coming back now? Because when I hear Police now, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Cocteau Twins, you
Yeah.
know? But if you wait long enough, then everyone forgets and it becomes new again. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like, it's not like a straight line, it's a wheel turning around.
It really
What does that
is.
mean about you, Kevin? I'm sorry.
I've been, my wheel is
How many times has it gone around?
like
Yeah.
worn down. And so do you, in this band, are you the primary songwriter? Do you guys all bat ideas around together? Or
We
how
do
does the
bad
process
ideas
work?
around together. Like we're writing an album right now where, we're each bringing ideas to the table. I mean, I probably write most of the songs, but this is the first time I think that we're really just working out the songs together. They're like partly finished, and so we're sitting there and batting them around and seeing what we can do with them. And so the arrangements really matter. So, if we can arrange something around it, then we'll go with it. And if it just falls flat, then we'll kick it down the road and maybe it'll come back. But
That can be a tough process with a band. Have you ever brought a song in here with these guys that you thought would be really great, and then it's just like doesn't happen? Or can you usually tell which ones are the hits and which ones might be the misses?
yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, there's stuff that falls flat that you think is going to be, when you first have the idea, you think this is going to be awesome, and you start playing and it's like, that's pretty lame. But a lot of it really is in how the band winds up interpreting it
Yeah.
and arranging it, and you realize you might just be a little shade off, and it just flattens the whole thing out. It's kind of subtle, and the older I get, the more we all play together, the more I realize that it's actually a lot of the subtleties that
make
really
it.
make it or break it. Sure, I mean, if you have a really good melody and a really strong hook, or it's that kind of song that can just kind of carry any arrangement, there are those songs that can really, transcend
Yeah.
an arrangement. But there's a lot of songs that are very dependent on how you're doing it, and you get it wrong.
Well, like with a
and it's
band like
wrong.
REM, the arrangements, especially on the early stuff, contribute a ton. I can't imagine Stipe playing Gardening at Night with, Pantera or some other,
Yeah.
band like that. It'd be really different.
Yeah.
Speaking of arrangements, then it must be nice to have this guy in the band. Why don't you introduce us to this feller?
This is Mike Nordby, and Mike plays mandolin. That's this kind of primary instrument that's non-percussive, and then a lot of more found object type percussion go along with what Justin's doing.
Not everybody would know what found object means. Maybe we can get some examples of that.
Well, he's got, what do you have here, like a colander? Well, the grill walk.
Yeah, the grill walk actually is kind of a famous story amongst us, at least amongst us five. This guy right here. Basically, it kind of goes back to like the first time I practiced with Jeff, and actually I was wearing it like that the last time I was playing. But what we did was it was basically me and Jeff getting together and kind of jamming out on guitars at first, and he started saying, well, hey, what kind of noise can you do with this and that? And we started picking up different things from his basement, and so that's where we started with a lot of percussion. Well, the next time, or within the next week, I started making little trips out to Menards or Home Depot or the hardware store, and and I was driving my girlfriend at the time nuts because I was like clicking every little thing, in the store trying to, hear what kind of noise it makes. And
honey, let me see your forehead.
Things.
Oh my God. They hate that.
Well, she was ready to do that after a while. But that's exactly how we started picking out little objects, and we started working with them, and kind of come up with weird arrangements for that. And we took them into the studio, and we recorded an album with them.
So it's kind of an integral element of the band now that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we got into like washboards, little
trash
sandpaper,
cans.
trash cans,
yeah.
Now, what's up with this mandolin here? How long have you been playing that? What inspired you to pick it up?
Actually, that was the first time I started playing with Jeff. What was it, 3 years ago or 4 years ago? I had never touched a mandolin before, but he said, like I was saying, what kind of noise can you make with this? And so I started plucking around on it. It only took me about 3 practices to figure out how to tune it, but that's fine. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Once I kind of figured out in relation to guitar, which was what I had played before, how the tuning worked, and then I started experimenting on my own. And
because a mando is tuned like a violin.
Precisely.
Right?
Yep. Basically, kind of like a reverse guitar, where the high string is actually E. It goes E A D G. And instead of going from low to high, it goes from high to low. If that makes sense.
So if your guitar's just played upside down, you'll be right.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So
let's hear a little something on that sweet thing. It's like the songwriter's best friend right there. I think the thing I like about mandolin, I'm a huge fan, is as a songwriter, it implies a little like whiff of legitimacy to whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? It's just like it's
pretty
like,
serious.
Yeah, we got a mandolin player in the band. We're the real deal. You know what I mean? We're not just screwing around, because everyone plays guitar, but you get one of these things.
No, it's true.
Now, the other thing is on guitar, you were mentioning that I saw that you brought 2 similar guitars, and so I guessed that you're into some open tunings. Is that the standard tuned guitar?
This is, yeah.
And then the other one is tuned
Dad-gad.
D-A-D-G-A-D, which we're talking about. That's a tuning. I think the background of that tuning is in Celtic folk music and things like that, right? Because I know Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page uses it a bit. And what got you into open tunings?
Well, I have a friend out in San Francisco played in a lot of them, and so I'd sit and watch his stuff and go, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then I listened to like Nick Drake a lot,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that I started listening to that were playing in open tunings. I'm like, well, let me just see what happens if I do this. And it was really interesting because I felt kind of locked in standard tuning a little bit, playing with the band, kind of having to hold down more of the rhythmic center. Especially before Justin came on, we were always kind of having drummers in and out that weren't necessarily of Justin's caliber. So,
You mean they sucked compared to Justin?
They sucked compared to Justin. They did.
Yeah.
And so, the guitar has to be there, And so open tuning was a way to stay rhythmic with my playing, but be able to move around the guitar a lot more.
Well, it's great as a solo player because it makes more sound. And then also as a songwriting tool, I find that, look, we're songwriters, we're playing pop, folk, rock, not jazz, whatever. We're all using the same 5 or 6 chords or permutations therein. And so with the open tunings, you don't sound like you are, and those chord voicings suggest different melodies, whereas when you're in standard tuning, there are some days when you kind of go, great, G, C, D.
Yeah, you bore yourself after a while with the same chords.
It's like inspiring.
Same patterns. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. I wanted to add, too, about Mike. He doesn't necessarily know how much he's going to be playing piano this next set of songs, but that's another thing I'm going to be throwing at him. We We tried it
play
out
piano
for the first
too?
time, so he's going to
Not
become a
yet.
piano player too.
So it's coming. You play piano now.
Yep, exactly.
Why don't you guys give us a tune?
All right, sounds good. Let's do Seismic. This is a song called Seismic. It's off the album we put out in October of last year called Witching and Divining. I'm sorry I accused you of crimes that just don't mean enough to risk exposing fault lines in all tacit harmony. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I shouldn't bear false witness, paranoia, jealousy, or careless indignation that serves no one but me. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Oh, just sing along. I got it wrong. So continents colliding, seismic shifts in troubled seas. Find the weakest point to exploit deep volcanic energy. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Oh, just sing along. I got it wrong. Where is this going? Too late to forgive. I tried to recapture the life that let us live. And all of those long nights, all the questions, all the talk couldn't put us back together once the earthquake found its fall. I'm coming through the data, trying to find that seismic seed that led to all destruction under landscapes lush and green. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Oh, just sing along. Oh, you know this song. I got it wrong. Thanks.
Adroitly done. So one thing I noticed on this song, and I remember when I seen you guys play at the Poorhouse, a few of your songs, you're shuffling like that on the drums. And that's just because this kind of music, it feels like it wants that shuffle. I mean, I don't know if you guys, younger kids, know what a shuffle is, but when he's going dooga daga dooga daga dooga daga dooga daga, which you can just as easily do on a cardboard box as you can on a snare drum or anything else.
Yeah, it's that old-timey 2/4 type of feel. That's the style that Jeff writes a lot of his songs in, so that's ultimately where the rhythms have to go.
But what's nice is if you ever hear a drummer doing a shuffle who you can tell that he hates shuffles or that he's normally a jazz drummer or a metal drummer or whatever and isn't used to it sounds like a wind-up monkey toy drummer. It's really stiff.
Yeah.
But you've got this fluidity going on, not only with the shuffle on the snare, but when you snake out to the floor tom and stuff like that.
Thanks.
And you don't rush your fills, because when you're shuffling, I think it takes some practice, or you got to have playing for a certain number of years to, because you don't want that train like pulling out of the station, leaving the band behind.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've played a fair amount of shuffles at this point in my life, and I try to keep it real consistent. That's one of my things. Keep the rhythmic foundation down. That's like number one for me.
Well, you might not notice it as a fan of the band or whatever, but if you've got a bad shuffler on drums, then you definitely notice it real quick.
Oh, yeah.
When they like take off, and the rest of the band's like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that. I mean, listen to any Johnny Cash hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Folsom Prison on down.
By the way, I love listening to drums that are transparent, like you're talking about. Like, I don't necessarily need to hear like all these crazy drum things going on. I like it to fit into the song, and to be like, these drums are great, but you didn't realize it till after the fact because it wasn't like something that was obvious to you at the time.
Well, you might not hear a drum track like that, but you feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it kind of like layers in with the guitar and the mando, so that it's not like a mandolin, a guitar, and the drums. It's like everyone's kind of like zhuga zhaga, and it gets to be this, bigger sound, like 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 when everyone's grooving together.
Yeah, it's like you're moving a big wall of music together. Yeah.
And it really supports the vocal, which I think, basically your band is going to live or die by the vocal and the songwriting, because it's not like there's a bunch of wild, crazy soloing going on, or, flash pots, or, weird outfits or anything like that. It's a singer-songwriter thing. Not that there's anything wrong with those other approaches.
Yeah, we have been talking about the weird outfit
We've
part.
been talking about working on choreography as well.
Yeah.
Did you guys want to share any of that with the group?
Well, I was expecting.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, why don't you show us a little razzmatazz on the dadgad guitar, because that's something I bet you some of these guys are not familiar with.
I got switched already.
Oh, look at you. You're very sneaky.
Yeah, every time I bring out what Justin calls the train beat, that's
The train beat, that's what I call it.
He's like, oh man, what are you gonna do? What am I gonna do on this one? How can I make the train beat sound like something other than the train beat?
Why would you want to?
Well, see, that's it. It's like you got to keep it what it is, but got to keep it interesting too. So
The kids are holding up a sign saying, "Make Justin dance." What do you want me to do? Shoot my 6 guns at his feet? Have you seen him? I can't make him do anything. Look at him. He's
the
huge.
best part about that sign is there's a very small please at the bottom of it, just very, very small.
The thing is, we have microphones and you don't, so we're just going to do what we want to do and never do what you guys want to do. So tell us about dadgad a little bit.
I'm not that well versed in like the history of open tunings or anything.
No, I mean, how
but
do
I
you make
can
it
tell
work?
you about. I usually play, and what I like about it is I can play lines with it instead of chords. And some songs I'm doing chords, and of course, make nice inversions compared to the standard, right? But you can play,
And wherever you go, you can have those open strings ringing out for the big sound.
So if you figure out where your scales are, and you stick to that, and even that's fairly forgiving in some ways compared to standard tuning.
Yeah.
And you can drone a lot, which I really like in music. I really like just having like really kind of a drone string along with notes happening. That's probably goes back to listening to a lot
Bagpipes.
of yeah.
It
That
does.
actually goes back to listening to a lot of U2 and
Yeah.
bands from the 80s. You doing it on an electric guitar. So this is a way you can basically do it on acoustic guitar, and that's pretty fun. So sometimes we'll get in these, extended jams with this band. Now you're not seeing the whole band today. We have a couple more members that do electrify it because we have a bass player and an electric guitar player. And I don't think you ever saw us with the electric guitar players.
No, I saw a 4-piece.
Yeah, you saw us with our Tony, who used to play cello with us.
Yeah.
So we have an electric guitar player, plays electric guitar and keys too. So.
And what's your recording history? How many albums do you guys have out?
We have 2 full-length albums and an EP.
2 full-length and an EP. That's a lot. So where do you guys do your recording? A lot of it here at IPR. Is Justin
We
engineering?
actually
stuff?
haven't.
Well, by the time I got involved with the band, he had already started working with people, and it would have been too much to kind of disrupt that. But we're discussing, obviously, that now for our next effort, how we want to approach it. So.
He's really good. I've seen him work. He's
pretty
good.
Well, here's what's funny. Here's what's really funny. So most of my expertise is in Pro Tools. That's what I've studied the most. We're seriously talking about not using Pro Tools for this next album.
Tape?
Yeah.
And where did you make your albums you've made so far? Where'd you record them?
We record up in Forest Lake at Gilder Sound primarily, but we do some tracking at the Terrarium.
Oh, Terrarium.
So that was really fun. On our first album, we did that. And then this last album, the studio upgrade up in Forest Lake was so extensive that we decided, well, I think you can handle it, because mainly it was for the drums to get a nice big drum sound. And I don't know, you feel satisfied with the drums?
Yeah, it's gonna get a little techie on everyone here, but we're in a tech school.
Bring it.
So he has a Great River summing box there, which I thought helped out a lot. I don't know if you guys know what external summation is yet. Some of you may, some of you not. But basically, instead of combining everything in the computer, it takes it outside and then it sums it like an analog console would. Except it's not.
And you heard a big difference from that.
Yeah, I mean that helped. That was one. It wasn't the silver bullet, but it was 1/4 of the silver bullet. We also used tape saturation in Pro Tools. We just discovered heat. We like that. I mean, once again, not by itself a silver bullet, but when you start combining these things, and then when we finally heard it on record, we were like, I think we were all pretty happy with it at that point. When we actually heard the record, we're like, yes, this is exactly the sound.
We sent it out to Golden in California, in Ventura, for mastering. And I think that was another big step, because it didn't overdo it. You just
mastering
exactly
so big.
We said just master this for vinyl first, and then from there you can work on the CD of it. And
it's a bummer when you send a rootsy piece of music to a mastering place that's used to like commercial hip hop or metal or modern metal or something like that, and you get it back and you're like, oh my God, what happened to my music?
No, that was when we were playing around with some mastering in the studio that we recorded in, and that was one of the things that immediately his just pat settings that he just throws at you.
Yeah, it
was crunching it, and I was like, what happened? Because while we were tracking, some of these songs were so spacious, and so I am pleased in the end, because the mastering job was good. And then going to vinyl where it wasn't overly compressed, it was much less than even on the CD, and there you really hear that openness in the songs. And
where are you thinking of going to record on tape? Have you, or has it not gotten that far?
Possibly here. I have another friend that has a tape machine that I'm considering working with. I don't know. We're just exploring our options at this point. But here is definitely one of the major considerations. We got those nice Studers. I don't know if everybody realizes that, but those Studers
they are nice.
Really
They're really
nice.
They're expensive. There's that kid that used to go to school here, Hollander.
Yeah.
Their studio Pearl, just across the river from us. They're tape,
nice.
and they're booked. He's making a go of it, and they're getting a great reputation for making great records on tape.
So our thing was, like, we were fighting so hard to get the tape sound when we initially went to Pro Tools. We're like, why are we fighting so hard to get the tape sound when we should just be, I mean, it just makes total sense. It's just like very obvious, like just record on tape. Now, along with that comes a bunch of other stuff that's harder to deal with, like punching in and, multi-tracking scenarios. It's like you have to be able to kind of nail this stuff. Full takes of it.
But don't you feel like,
but that's part of it too.
You didn't pick up your guitar yesterday.
Yeah,
you guys could seem like the kind of band that could actually pull that off.
Yeah, hopefully, but it's still scary. It's still something that's different. You don't get that safety net of Pro Tools to be like, we'll just kind of move this around here.
I'm always saying, I know I've said this to my classes a million times, but the difference between, I'm not really someone now with HD and the different methods of getting tape saturation, I'm not hung up on tape sounds, but what I do miss is, as a record producer, 15 years ago, the band would go and line up in the studio and they'd do like, I don't know, maybe 4 takes, depending on how together they were or whatever. And at the end of the first take where they really nailed it, they'd look at you and they'd say, did we get it?
Yeah.
Now, they look at you after 8 takes that are kind of good and say, you got enough? And I'm not saying that's a bad way of working. Sometimes it's necessary, like if you have a band that's not good at playing together. It is what it is. I'm not a nostalgic person, but there is something I miss about that trapeze artists working without a net. You know what I mean?
Yep,
the commitment.
And Jeff's he's a big advocate of that as well, and I'm trying to pick up a lot of his philosophies on that. And yeah, I come from a very technical background, so obviously I'm trying to control things. But yeah, the older I get, I realize it's more about the performance, really, isn't it?
You
Man,
really
so
gotta
much.
that's the key. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to get the performance, and you can do it. You can do it with without doing the whole band playing at the same time. But
Sure.
you still have to get that feeling.
Yeah.
And we've never done anything where we didn't. Well, I guess we've done a couple of songs where we didn't lay a drums down first with the band. But usually, on almost all of our recordings, we'll lay we'll have the band come in and play in the room at least together, because the studios we've recorded in, except for the Terrarium, haven't been big enough to really be able to have us all doing everything at once. So, but we do play all together and just isolate the drums so we can get that feel to begin with, and then from
It's
there.
hardest on you and you, because drums and vocals are no offense, not that to belittle what
None
you do.
taken
It's
whatsoever.
all right. But I'm just saying, that's the hardest thing to get right in one take is the drums and the vocals.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? It's hard.
Everything about drums is hard. Miking them, recording them, getting the right feel, playing them. So many things you can goof up that.
But also awesomely.
Yeah,
I find it
but also
endlessly
one of the
amusing and
best
entertaining recording drums. I don't play drums, but I used to work at a drum company in the 80s, Percussion Rims, and I got obsessed with drums and drummers, and I love working with drummers in the studio. I love recording drums. I just think it's endlessly fascinating.
I think it's great too.
Yeah,
Obviously.
it's a challenge, but it's like, and it's funny, I should be more into guitars, and I am into guitars, but every day I'm going to record drums in my studio or here, I'm just like,
Yes, I think there's something, like in everyone's like gut, like for like this kind of primitive drumming rhythm thing that is just like innate in us. I would like to believe anyway.
there's no band that has a crappy drummer that I like.
I think
You know what I mean?
I remember seeing some documentary where they said something about like babies in the womb hear like rhythms first or something like that. You're hearing the heartbeat. That's
Heartbeat,
it. So
yeah.
the heartbeat of of what you're hearing is something like it's ingrained in your subconscious from day one or something like that.
Definitely. Do you guys want to do another song? And this one would be in the Dadgad tuning?
Yeah.
Cool. What's this called?
It's called The Winnowing.
Spread a bunch of rope, half the length with stone. Tie a whipping knot, bind some new and bone. Go into the field, drink from organ and soul. Find a pleasing lamb for the offering bowl. Hi, 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 love, hi, hi, hi. Hi, 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 let the ashes fly. Hi, 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 love, hi, hi, hi. Hi, 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 set fire to the sky. Gather wood and straw, bring the fuel to sow. Seed for barley, corn, bless the plow and hoe. Set the wood on fire, light the hallowed pyre. Sing a song of praise as the flames burn higher. Hi, 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 love, hi, hi, hi. Hi, 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 let the ashes fly. Hi, 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 love, hi, hi, hi. Hi, 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 set fire to the sky. love. Hi, 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 let the ashes fly. Hi, 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 love. Hi, 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 set fire to the sky.
It's interesting the way you use that tuning. It's because of the nature of the tuning, I can hear the British folk influence, but the way you do it, it also has an American blues influence or folk blues influence.
You know, that's
on it.
exactly, I mean, that's a good description. I think that's been coming across, and a lot of reviewers actually picked up on that, which was interesting too. I don't know that I understood that when I started doing it.
Sometimes that stuff just seeps into you and
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
happens. But it's like if Leadbelly was Irish, you know what I mean? Then maybe he would do something
I
like
like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now, also on the drums, I notice, just because I'm always really locked in on the drummer, the way you're playing the floor tom on that song, by killing the sustain on it on some hits and letting it ring on others, it's like you get two totally different drum sounds out of one tom-tom.
Yeah, so that's something I picked up on, oddly enough, studying some Brazilian samba. It makes no sense, obviously, the rhythms for that song, but that's a very common move that they'll do on this big drum called the surdo drum that they
Really?
do for carnival and Brazilian samba stuff. So they'll mute the drum and then they'll unmute the drum, and I just liked that so much, and I started messing around with that.
It's really
And
effective.
it seemed to work really well in these scenarios. So I'm like, I just want a little change up for those sections of the song, and it provides me a different texture for that area.
But that's what I'm noticing, the combination of using the mallets instead of sticks, turning the snares off, and that trick with a floor tom, and it's just like, okay, he's playing drums, but it's like...
I'm really big on textures.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I don't even realize at this point. Like, people will point this out to me, and I'll be like, really? Because it all just seems normal to me. But yeah, I'm always switching drumsticks. I'm always trying to hit the drums differently. I'm putting the snare on. I'm taking it off. I'm doing all these things to try to, subtly give each song its own character through textures. This is what I'm always
when
trying
you're
to do.
playing, it seems like this is hard to, not that hard to find, but it used to be really hard to find. As a singer-songwriter, finding musicians, and especially drummers, who actually listen to your song while they're playing the song, instead of like, I don't know, I played with guys in the 80s, and it's like, I don't know what they were listening
Yeah,
to.
I'm not proud of most drummers. Let me put it that way. I'm not proud of my clan for the most part.
Justin's definitely an arranger, and you
Yeah.
don't find that with a lot of drummers. I mean, a lot of drummers I played with in the past. So the real good ones, I think, do think in parts and start arranging drums against the material. He's constantly doing that and constantly improving our songs by doing it.
It really works on that one. I always say, for me, this is doesn't go for metal dudes or anything like that, but for me, if I meet a drummer and he likes Rush and hates Neil Young, we're probably, it's not gonna,
I have that same rule. That's funny.
yeah, it makes sense, right? So I feel like we should grill you some more too. Why don't you show, what do you got in this little bag of tricks here besides the colander?
Oh, sure.
Afterwards, we're having stir fry, so I like to drain the water out of the
I made
vegetables.
him leave his trash can at home. He should have brought that. It's got a swallow on this side.
Oh, here we go.
We have a little bit of everything kind of in the percussion kit. We got the good old shaker, as well as claves.
But what's the most, all that stuff's just
Yeah.
kind of right up the normal mean, but what's the most exciting is we play this song where he brings out a lead pipe,
Right.
and he just smacks the crap out of it. And it's
That's what
a
everybody
it's,
remembers.
it's a crowd pleaser. Just everybody seems to remember the lead pipe. They like this.
That's pretty much,
It's-
that's
you
what
can-
everybody remembers
yeah.
about the whole set.
I've only had one used on me once, and I remember it the rest of my life.
Yeah, as you can imagine, the lead pipe that he mentions, it's a little hard to fit into the semi-acoustic, setup. But when we really get like the full band going, and it really kind of finds a nice little spot in the set or into the song.
But you don't have it today?
It's too
I'm
bad you guys
afraid
can't
I
see it
didn't
because
bring
when he
that
actually
one,
gets
yeah.
into it, man, he's hitting it like he's just angry. He's just smacking
So
away.
and
at it.
that really gets to kind of the performance aspect and what we talk about. When I first started, with playing with these guys a couple of years ago, I was very much a beginner, and one of the things that I realized right away is you have to really buy into what you're doing. You have to sell your performance, no matter what you're
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
You have to be immediately in that space, and that's part of being a performer. So that was actually like a great thing for me as kind of a beginning performer, that I could focus on something rhythmic and and so forth, but really just wail on it and really kind of you give them like the grimace a little bit, get in, because it's a frustration song that we play.
Which band member are you imagining as you hit the lead pipe?
It depends on the night. Yeah.
Really? So you're not going to really go in, you're not going to give me a specific answer then?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's one thing. If you're carrying a lead pipe around, you're never going to get kicked out of the band.
That's true. That's true.
Well, let's confront the guy with the lead pipe. That's never going to happen.
When he started playing that lead pipe, I was like, man, if you're gonna play lead pipe on stage, you really got to sell it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't just stand up there with the pipe and
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
be hitting it
Gingerly tap
No,
it.
you gotta just lay into it.
All or nothing. So live performance-wise, what has been your guys' history? What are your favorite places to play? How far out do you drive to gigs and stuff like that?
Well, we've been doing every year. It seems like we go on a Midwest tour that's usually Wisconsin and Iowa.
I think they call it the
Nebraska.
Manure Tour. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? Yeah. You guys know what this is, right?
Oh, I do.
We get people's home, places where they have parents or something like that, and some places where we can stay and be able to go and play some
Yeah,
shows.
Midwest places we can reach out to
Yeah.
financially, feasible places.
So
we're
Iowa, Wisconsin.
Yeah, we've gone down to
Nebraska.
yeah.
Oh, Nebraska.
Missouri.
That's far.
We've gone out to South Dakota. Of course, Minnesota up to Duluth and down. We've been playing in Winona lately. And that's
What have been
pretty
some
fun,
of your
actually.
favorite gigs that you guys have done and why?
Well, actually, what's funny is the last tour we did, which we just kind of set up, and there wasn't a lot of backing behind it, but we just had a string of shows set up at these bars we thought were good places to play. Ended up being like, for example, Des Moines, which we're like, okay, what do we get in Des Moines? Ends up being there's actually, I've learned just a good appreciation like for people that want to see like good creative acts out there. They don't even know much about us. They just know an original act is coming
Was
from
this the
Minneapolis.
Gas Lamp in Des Moines, or?
I don't remember the name of the place.
No,
it was some
it
kind
was-
of punk
yeah,
rocky
Yeah,
bar.
it was called
Is that the
Fremont or something
The
like that?
Fremont, that
Yeah.
sounds right.
This is pretty much a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Last minute, like we had I don't know if we were going to do the Vaudeville Muse or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they double booked it. So then we had the last week we had to get another gig, and so the Fremont, we didn't know what it was. When we got there was a bar fight. Somebody got all bloodied up. We're like, holy shit.
But
I like it.
that's
You're
the
like,
stuff.
we don't care. We got a guy with a lead pipe. Go
Yeah.
ahead, fight all you want.
So it ends up being a bunch of people just show up. We're like, let's check this out, and then they started getting into it, and then it was just like a big community event, and it was awesome. It's just a little thing that happened, but I noticed that happen like over and over again on this little tour that we did, and I just thought that's something I learned. I just I'm like, God, this is cool. People actually do want to see just something original. And they'll come out to see it. They'll come out and check it out.
especially
No
if
matter
you go to
where.
cities. Yeah.
The other interesting one on that tour was Maquoketa, Iowa. We played
What now?
Maquoketa. It's like on the eastern side of Iowa. But what we ended up playing was like a basement party. But this was what was the?
They do the Barnstormers
the
tour
Barnstormers
down
tour.
there, if you know what that is at all. So there's basically this series of barns down
Oh, cool.
in Iowa that there's like
They've renovated for music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty serious what they do.
Day
And-
Trotters is involved with that. I don't know if
Oh,
anyone
okay,
knows.
yeah. No, I know about Day Trotter.
Yeah.
I would always rather play a party than a bar anytime. Anytime. You know what I mean? Because then they just have more fun.
They're more
Yeah.
appreciative, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just depending on the bar, I've played a lot of bars.
Yeah.
Some days, don't you kind of be like, you know what? I just don't want to play a bar.
Yeah.
I know it's hard with the students. They're like, I can't wait to get in a bar. It's just like, a bar is like a tour bus. There's all these people, if you're on tour in a bus, and there's all these fans, they just want to get on that bus. They're knocking on the door. They want to get on that bus. When I was touring with Westerberg, like, all these people got to get on the bus. And they finally get, and if you're in the bus, you can't wait to get off the bus. It smells like old underwear and moldy pizza, and it's disgusting and small, and there's nothing to do. You know what I mean? And same with bars. To me, it's like all these guys, I can't wait to get in a bar, And then you get in a bar, it's like, oh, look, there's drunk, stupid people who aren't listening to my band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love the idea of playing in barns. Barns, not bars.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea.
Having said that, our shows at the Entry have been really fun. We've played handful of shows at the entry.
But
the
again, a
last couple
true
years.
music lover's room. People
Yeah.
don't go to the entry
No,
because
it
it's like,
matters,
oh, the Twins
yeah.
game is over. Let's go to the entry. You know what I mean? If they're
Right.
there,
No, everybody's
they're
there to see
rock.
the show, and you can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah, I
And
like that.
They appreciate original music. Sometimes you play and people look a little perplexed at some bars where the walk-in bars. You know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They're expecting somebody playing cover music or something when they go in there.
Yeah.
You know, we usually get still warmly received, you know, after we play for a while, but
But you got to work it. You got to work for
you
it.
got to work for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, they're like,
Yeah,
What's
St.
this
Cloud
all
is
about?
tough, man. If you're not in a tribute band, St. Cloud, that's a tough town, boy. I just lie and say, yeah, this is a Neil Young song.
yeah, there you go.
One of his more obscure numbers. You know?
We used to play at the White Horse up there. Do you ever play at that bar? So it's a little place, but they had the owner and the guy who was booking for. I think that they don't have music now, but while they had music for a few years, they'd bring bands up from the cities, plays pretty well, and because they didn't want that, they didn't want the cover band, you know, the local cover band thing. So they would bring people in, and it was a real nice place, an appreciative room, especially the guy who did sound and booked the shows. He was
That makes a huge difference.
yeah, he was a cool guy.
So, what do you guys want to play next?
We can do an older one. Since we don't have all the members, it's hard to do some of our rock songs, but we'll do
Sounds good so far.
a little ballad.
What?
All good?
Let's put our party hats on and get out tonight. We'll drink to a future, to a hopeful and bright. And we won't destroy the moment, worrying about money and life. We're gonna make a last stand, do it upright. We can care about tomorrow when we turn out the light. I guess I can't remember the last time we felt right. Watch over me, eventide. Come down to me, eventide. I'm sorry for the hard words, and distrust and lies, and the drunken tirades in the dead of the night. I guess I've lost my balance, I'm probably less than alright. Watch over me, eventide. Come down to me, eventide. We're tired of drifting through life. I promise we can get through if we focus all sides on the life we should be living, the one where we're happy and light. Watch over me, eventide. Come down to me, eventide. Watch over me, eventide. Come down to me, eventide. Watch over me, watch over me, watch over me. Watch over me.
I think we should pick on this guy for a while. Now, I noticed on that song you're using the mandolin in a very non-traditional way, because 99% of your mandolin players are going to be like,
Very percussive.
yeah.
Yep.
And you're doing long. So also, this is the first time in a live piece of music that I've ever heard someone play harmonics on the mandolin, and it was a really cool sound. It jumped out right away. So where did you come up with? Did you just get this stuff from noodling around on it, or because you didn't go learn how to play in Nashville?
Completely noodling around, and which is probably because I didn't learn it in Nashville.
Yeah.
Really.
They don't like that noodling in Nashville.
Right. Exactly. Oh, sure. Here we go. Let's do that a little bit. When Jeff and I first started getting together and we started playing, this was one of the first songs that I started learning my own or crafting my own part on. So it was shortly after the whole moment of, here, what kind of noise can you make on the mandolin? So really at that time, I was still coming from a guitar mindset and figuring out where, notes were and, how to, what are the limitations of a mandolin at that point? Because really I was almost from a naive point of view at that point with regards to the instrument itself. So that's kind of how I came up with a lot of the harmonics, picking out little moments, to insert those into the arrangement, as well as that last part of the breakdown when we created a little bit more of a melodic line.
Yeah.
And we you probably noticed I used a little bit of droning, like we talked about earlier with the dadgad and the different types of tuning. So that really kind of created a pretty dramatic moment within the music itself. So that particular song actually came out before I joined the band. So it was kind of interesting that I was able to create my own little part using the mandolin.
It's really
actually.
interesting. And I think the thing that I stuck out is that usually mandolin is mandolin. It's a one-trick pony in a way, and it always sounds like itself. But you were getting sounds that I hadn't heard before. And I think the thing about mandolin is it can be kind of like harmonica, like in a blues band, where it's like you want to say to the guy, and this, I love harmonica, I love mandolin, I honestly do, but sometimes you want to say, I love when you don't play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because by the end of the song, you're like, I'm good now, I'm all set. You know what I mean? And they're still playing. You know what I mean? If you've ever been in a blues band and there's a guy in the audience that comes up, I play harmonica, and I kind of sit in, it's like, okay. And you're singing the verse, and he's over there like that, having a spaz attack on the harmonica.
That happened at one of our last shows when we wanted to sit in. I actually didn't realize he's a harp player, but he's like, can I sit in with you guys? I'm like,
You said no? That's so great. I'm too codependent. You're like, oh, God, I'll crush his
well, we
little
switched
spirit.
in and out so much. Yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things. We were getting close. It was getting tired. But we switched in and out of different styles so much that, yeah, for this song, that would be appropriate. But the second we move to the next song.
But there's got to be an off switch. I wanted more when the song was over. It's like, play that mandolin some more. So that's a great job. So since these guys are doing something similar to what some of you guys hope to be doing when you get out of IPR with your bands and stuff like that, I just bet we have some poignant questions here for these guys. This is a chance for you to put Justin and these guys on the spot. So no question is too personal. What do you guys want to know? There's one. Oh, sorry, that's too personal. Oh. So the question is, he thinks that I have to say it over the mic so we get it on the video feed. Your voice reminds him of Tom Waits, and he says that Tom Waits says that's a character he goes into. He wants to know where you get it from.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's part of it was I got halfway to 3/4 of the way there just by playing in bars and drinking and singing a lot. And that's when the comparison started to be made. And then I realized, wow, I could do character now with my voice. And that's not where I started. I started off doing singer-songwriter stuff, and then playing in more rock bands, but just singing along the melodies. And then I realized, especially this last album, let's do the characters and see how this goes. And what we're writing now is very character-driven. So, in that sense, and we didn't mention Tom Waits earlier, but we do get that comparison, and it's probably an apt comparison. At least with the vocals, and then I think I don't think we do the same type of thing as Tom Waits, but I do think that there's some resonances with the approach.
The grittiness, and that you're not writing like a ton of happy songs and stuff like that. He writes songs about, I don't know, I'm a huge Tom Waits fan. I just read his biography. That's how much I'm into him. And I noticed that when I first saw you guys. But then halfway through the set, I was like, you know what? There's a little of that in there, but you know what I mean? It's the first thing you think of because of the voice, but then you guys take it into a much different place, especially what he's been doing lately. So, but yeah, I definitely hear that in there. We have time for one more poignant and probing question for these guys. I'm always hoping for more inappropriate questions than I get on these things. I don't know when young people started being so polite, but I don't like it. One more question? No more questions? What, you guys just know everything? There's one.
Did you play a Dutch oven at your CD release party, or was that the pipe?
Did you
I believe
play a
that is,
Dutch oven at your CD release party?
Garbage can, but there was something on the floor, and I was too far back.
Was it the girl walk?
Sure, actually, yeah. That was actually.
Although now that you say Dutch oven, I want this to happen.
Yeah, this guy here.
But you're playing it with a stick on the floor,
Right. So for that particular song you're referring to, I play the trash can on top with a mallet, and then also this guy throw on the floor, and then just start hitting it with a rod. Actually, it gives a little bit of a unique sound on it. So, yeah.
Couldn't see what it was, and I
Yep.
thought it might be a Dutch oven.
That's it. Yeah.
And if anyone complains, he's got the lead pipe as a backup.
That's right.
So he doesn't get a lot of complaints. All right, well, let's give these guys a big round of applause and thank them for coming.
Thank you.
Go see them at their next show. Buy their records.
Yeah, I don't know if we can announce this show yet, but we June 12th at the Triple Rock with the Kopecky Family Band. Looks like it's going to be a go, but So if you're looking in the paper and you see us, go to that one.
Well, if anybody's interested, actually, I put our album in the library. So you just trot yourself up to the library, go look at Swallows, and it's there. Go to our website, swallowthemusic.com, check all this stuff out if anybody's
There you
interested.
go. All right, now you can come up and ask all the questions you're too scared to ask on camera.